shoots ya, and he goes short side low.
The Rebels are right back in it. All alone, he's stopped by Luke West. And Kerr,
What?
7 seconds is all it took for Kerr.
Quick shot, scores. Jacob Goudreau. Takes a shot and buries that.
Welcome to Junior Beast. A bit of a new voice and a bit of a new place. My name is Keenan alongside Arik. We are now bringing you Junior Beast here on Crow Lax TV, taking it over from Cody Jansen. Don't you worry, he will be back. He'll pop in periodically, and I'm sure it won't take very long for you to hear from him. Today, we are talking the draft. This is draft week. All the other drafts have been done outside of North Division. North Division is going on tonight, 7 p.m. at the Delta Edmonton South. You can catch it right here on Crowlax TV's YouTube channel. Arik, going into this draft today, there's been a lot of players that were highly rated from some of these teams that I've seen that actually went in the Junior A draft earlier this week. It's tough to say what teams are going to do now. Early in the week, I did get to sit down with a lot of the coaches for these teams, and, they were telling me that kind of depends on the Junior A draft, and, a lot of these coaches have plans and stuff, but going into the draft this season, you look back at last season's statistics, you got Warriors who just kind of blew it out of the water, ended up winning. Larry Bishop ended up going on to win the Founders Cup. The Rebels gave them a bit of a fight there in the finals, and then you kind of had this big gap between Rebels, Warriors, and then Outlaws, Crude. Arik, going into this year, what do you see some of these teams needing?
I just expect to see the bottom teams, the Outlaws and the Crude. I think they'll close the gap a little bit. We saw last season the Warriors it looks like they dominated the division because they ended up winning, going on to win the Founders. But on a regular season basis, the Rebels were with them most of the season. And in the playoffs, they went to Game 3. Warriors won in Edmonton against the Rebels in Game 3 there. But I expect the Outlaws to take a step up here. They were one of the youngest teams in the league last season. So, just everybody having a year of experience, they got to participate in the Larry Bishop. That's huge experience for that team in the play against some of the best teams in the entire league. So that's good growth for them. I expect both the Outlaws and the Crude to kind of focus on some defense in this draft. Comparatively, they had a lot more goals than the Warriors and the Rebels. Offensively, I thought the Outlaws were pretty good offensively last season. I think one of the main talking points they wanted to switch or improve on this season was their power play. So maybe try to see if they find a power play specialist there in the draft. But other than that, yeah, it's a very a two-tier division you see with the Warriors and the Rebels, both with 16 wins, Outlaws with 6, and the Crude with 4. So I'm just hoping to see the Outlaws and the Crude have a good draft and really close the gap between the top teams in this division.
That was definitely one of the big things when I sat down with Outlaws new head coach this year, Philip Smith. He had a lot to say on the Outlaws strategy heading into the draft. Okay.
And he was talking about, like you said, you had the interview later. He was talking about how this draft is hard because, you can take a player that's really good and then he'll just end up getting snatched up by a Junior A team. And then that good draft pick is not helping your team anymore. So it's definitely a balance.
And like you saw it last year with the Outlaws too. Outlaws, they had a couple of rougher looking games. But even head coach Philip Smith, again, you'll hear from him a little later on. He was saying how it took a little bit for that power play to start really clicking for the Outlaws. And personally, on my level, I feel like that was due in part to the Outlaws making that switch to put Kai Lee on the quarterback position on that power play. And I said it last year too. Kai Lee is a tremendous player with that ball, and he just finds ways to get it to the net. He lets the other guys do the dirty work right in front. And again, you could see once that power play started clicking for the Outlaws, that's when they really started to make their power play was a difference maker once he was back to there.
Yeah, and if you go back and look at last season, I'm pretty sure they lost 4 or 5 games by 1 goal. That special teams, that power play, that can be the difference between winning that game and losing that game. So definitely something they're going to be looking to improve on in the draft.
Absolutely. Well, I sat down with Coach Philip Smith. Here's that interview for you. Well, I am sitting down here with Philip Smith of the Beaumont Outlaws head coach. How's it going tonight, Philip?
It is going well, thank you.
That's good. So, Philip, you're new head coach of the Beaumont Outlaws. They did have a less than stellar season last year, 6-14-0. Being that new head coach going into your first season with the Outlaws, do you have a general idea or maybe knowledge of what you want to improve with the team this season?
Yeah, I have a good idea about that stuff. I was fortunate to be brought on last year as an assistant coach, so I have a good handle on what we have as players in our group and how we played some games last year. And the 6-14-0 record is a little misleading. We took 4 different teams to overtime. So some of those games might have gone the other way. We're sitting around 500, hopefully. But for the upcoming season, we need to improve our transition play, offensively and defensively. Our power play took a long time to get going last season, so we'd like to come out of the gates, hopefully, when the season starts with a little more effectiveness on the power play. Because sometimes that ends up deciding games. Your special teams are a big factor. And then goaltending was a big issue for us last year, so hopefully we can work to address that, hopefully through the draft and maybe some potential free agents out there. But if you're 6-14-0, I think you need to get better everywhere. So that's not an easy task, but we'll see what we can chip away at this year and improve in some of those areas, hopefully.
Well, speaking of the draft is coming up on Friday. And by the sounds of it, you do have a solid idea on your key targets. Is that, again, more kind of position-wise? Do you have, like, those specific players you're honing in on, like, we want to take this guy kind of thing? You don't have to name names or anything, but...
Well, there's a lot that goes into the draft. I think we want specific players for what they can do and what they bring to the locker room, the floor, the organization, the group. But with us being a junior B team, sometimes if they're too good for us, they go straight to the junior A programs in the province. And the best draft in the world could leave you with no players if they're all really good players that get a look at junior A instead. So the junior B draft sometimes depends on, it's a lot of guesswork if you think guys are going to be 3-year junior B guys or 5-year junior B guys. There's a lot of discussion behind the scenes, and you said it first, team needs. So I definitely think we'll be addressing some athletic players, is what we want. Obviously, you're 6-14-0 last year. You don't get enough goals, so we're looking to add guys that can put the ball in the net for sure. Would be a big thing to address in the draft. But position specific is sometimes a tough way to approach a draft. If you have some players slotted at certain spots and they get picked by other teams, then your best draft plan kind of goes out the window. So we're hoping to address some character issues through the draft, some player position issues at the draft, and then some team needs for sure through the draft. So again, like the first question, a little bit of everything hopefully we can address through the draft and build our team from there.
That's great. So outside of winning Larry Bishop and the Founders and, as you said, like improving on some of those character things and filling in holes where needed, do you have goals or expectations kind of in mind for the Outlaws this season? Like, what can we expect going into the 2024 season?
Some team goals for sure would be to improve our record. we believed we were a 500 team last year, and with that in mind, we'd like to build up on the 6 wins we got last year. And to win a round of playoffs would be the first goal. Like last year was the first time the Outlaws made the playoffs in a long time. Again, since before I showed up, so that was a step in the right direction last year, and again, we're just hoping to build on that. So maybe improve our position in the league, or win a round of playoffs somewhere there. Having hosted the Larry Bishop last year, we kind of got a taste for what that provincial tournament is about, and the 2 games a day grind, sometimes the 4 games in 3 days. So we felt we got a real steep learning curve into what that's all about, and hopefully that's what we're hoping to build on moving forward for this year. The experience we gained last year at that provincial Larry Bishop tournament, and the experience of a lot of young bodies being introduced to Junior B last year. With, I think we dressed, most games 10 to 12 first-year players. So we're just hoping to build on that and keep going in the right direction. Other team goals would be, obviously, put some players in the spots where they're eligible for league awards, because I think if you got players winning league awards, you have a pretty good squad, and a team like the Warriors would have pretty much swept those league awards last year, and it's indicative when they win the Founders Cup. So we've got a pretty good visual of what success looks like, having played last year's Founders Cup champs at least 6 times, I believe, throughout the season. So that's what we're striving towards, to kind of have a season like what the Warriors put together.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Philip, for this. Very insightful, looking into a new head coach's perspective coming fresh into the league. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, that was a great interview with Philip Smith. He's a great guy. Loved talking with him. And as he said to me after we stopped recording there, that won't be the last that we hear from him this season, and I guarantee it won't be. I feel like the Outlaws are going to make some noise this year. You move on to the Crude. Garen Schmerman, head coach of the Crude Lacrosse Club, sat down with him as well. He was talking a lot about last season being so rough for the Crude, and how he had almost an entire roster of first-time Junior B Tier 1 players, and just how mentally, how they were kind of even getting in their own heads in a way of this is new territory for them. It's all new guys. They lost big key pieces, whether that be to seniors or just, quite frankly, aging out. So where do you see the Crude going with this draft? Because one thing that we did talk about last year was how strong the Crude's goaltending was. And looking at the stats, you had Will Horn, absolute beast, playing at a 79.5 save percentage, which is pretty good. Good for 4th in save percentage last season. Jordan Peck on that backside, 75.7. These guys both played a lot of games, a lot of minutes, faced a lot of shots. Do you feel like a lot of the Crude's unsuccessfulness last year was based off of their lack of production up front mostly?
Yeah, I would say so. They scored 30 less goals than anybody else in the division. They only had 159 last season with a negative 92 goals for and against differential. To be honest, I'm not too worried about the Crude. They did extremely good in 2022. They went 12-8. Just historically, this seems to be kind of last year was kind of an off year for the Crude. So I expect them to have a pretty good draft and really get those pieces to get them back competing against at least the Rebels for the second spot there in the North Division.
Yeah, the Crude, I definitely am not worried about them on the back end. And head coach Garen Schmerman, he even said in his interview, which you'll hear just in a couple minutes, is he feels that the team was weak on both front gate and back gate. He just felt that there wasn't something clicking all season. And again, a lot of that due to in part of being such a new set of players coming onto that team. in a time where they lose, I think Garen had said 5 or 6 of their biggest pieces of the Crude success stories. I mean, you're losing big names. You got to fill a gap somewhere, and there just wasn't anything really in their system that they could come and say this is a perfect replacement for this guy. They had to find multiple guys to essentially fill 2 or 3 holes. I am here with Garen Schmerman, head coach of the Crude Lacrosse Club. Garen, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you, Keenan?
I'm doing pretty good. So, Garen, looking back to last season, things, they didn't go great for the Crude. 4-16-0, you guys ended up. Where do you think things kind of went wrong for you guys? Or, is there something that sticks out in your mind, I wish we would have done this different kind of thing?
Well, going into that year last year, we graduated 9 guys from our roster. I think our 7 leading scorers we lost, and we lost 2 guys to Junior A. So we ended up with a roster here of 13 new guys last year that have never played Tier 1 before. And that's a pretty crazy amount to try and fix in one summer. So we knew going in it was going to be a bit of a tough year. But no, I do agree with you. We were a bit weak out the front gate and the back gate. Goaltending was probably our strong suit last year, I'd say. Willie Horn and Jordan Peck played pretty well, but just lots of we were lacking depth, I'd say, in all departments. Would be our biggest thing. We went and made a trade here a couple of weeks ago to try to help fix that. We got Caden Nestor, a really talented offensive player from the Outlaws that I wanted to draft 3 years ago, and I've inquired about him lots, trying to get him. I'm a big fan. He's going to help us out the front gate. And Nathan Hendricks, another lefty from St. Albert, transition. He'll be good to add. Just add to the depth. We got to fill that in, and also got pick 2 in the draft. So we're drafting 2, 4, and 5. We're really looking forward to Friday, adding to the group. And it was just, I'd say the biggest issue last year was depth. But you're not going to replace that many guys. It is what it is. So I'm proud of how the guys handled it. Proud of the way some of the guys stepped up, and they'll be better for it. We got a bit of structure in there, a whole new coaching staff too last year. So, like I said, it was a learning curve for lots of the guys, lots of the coaches. But we'll move on. We're going to be much better for it, and we're ready to go for this year.
Well, that's great. I know definitely some of the guys last year, even in the mid-season show, we were saying the Crude goaltending was probably one of the strongest tandems in the division. Just you guys weren't having any ball luck really at all. It was just going in your net, not hitting the other net, and that I feel that kind of costed you guys last year. But like you said, just not strong enough. The depth just kind of wasn't there. So.
No, yeah, I would, like I said, the year before we lost Adam Horlak, Kyle Dezwinka, Bryce Schmierman, Zayden Blake, Jonah Borniak, Jack Renault. We lost huge pieces, and we weren't ready for that. We weren't ready to replace all those guys, and you can't expect to replace all of them. But Will Horn and Jordan Peck were 2 we were very happy with them last year. Like I said, I thought Will was probably the best goalie in the league. And I'll stand by that. Obviously we weren't that great, but it is what it is. Like I said, we'll be back this year. We didn't graduate a single body either. So there's going to be guys from last year that don't make the team this year, and that's just the way it goes, and it'll bring the best out of everyone.
Well, some healthy competition definitely is a good thing to have, especially going into a new season. And I mean, speaking of a new season, a draft coming up on Friday. Do you kind of have a solid idea on your key targets, player-wise, position-wise? If player-wise, you don't have to say names, but kind of do you have a general plan going in?
Yeah, we got like I said, that trade I mentioned earlier. We also moved from pick 9 to pick 2. So we picked 2, 4, and 5 in the draft. So we're extremely happy about that. You can always add a lefty O guy, help out the front gate. There's one really, really good one we're hoping to get, but we'll see what happens there. Then always right-handed, some righties help with the transition game, play out the back gate. Just like I said, just add some skill, add a bit more depth to the group. But no, there's a couple targets. I'm not going to give you their names, but we will. We're hoping, like I said, we're getting 5 of the 6 best kids in the draft, and 3 of the best 6 kids in the draft, 3 of the best 5 kids in the draft. Sorry, brain fart. So we are. We're very excited. We do have some guys picked out. Like I said, you can always add some high-end skilled lefties, and just some guys to help us get the ball up the floor and go from there. Get the ball to our O guys. Expecting a big year from Nash Knowlton, Parker McConnell, Bennett Frey. Obviously, we got Fawchuk back, Dylan Kerr, Simon Leung, Caden Nestor. Get the ball to our O guys and let them do what they can do. So we're expecting to add some key pieces to our transition and maybe a lefty that can put the ball in the back of the net.
Definitely would be a welcome thing for the Crude, again, with that ball luck just not going your way last year. But again, you got a lot of talent coming back in. And with that, I mean, outside of obviously you want to win Larry Bishop, you want to win the Founders. Do you have any kind of goals in mind for the Crude this year? Any kind of achievements you want to get kind of thing?
Yeah, for us, it's just to build on what we started last year with that core group. We just got to keep pushing. We're gonna try to make the playoffs. Obviously, that's the plan. And I've said before, once you get in the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely.
we're gonna push for that. We got stability. We're gonna have stability, structure. We're just building on last year. Key guys we're bringing back. We're just gonna be building up, and we looking to be much, much improved. And I said, obviously, make the playoffs and make some noise once we get there.
Well, once you hit the playoffs, it's a whole new game, and you said it, anything can happen once you get there. So thank you, Garen, so much for sitting down with me. Garen Schmerman, head coach of the St. Albert Crude.
Yeah, thanks, Keenan.
Great interview with Garen. Dude, he is a character. I love Garen. He's great head coach for the Crude. He's going to take that team places. Just, he needs those pieces. And, well, we'll see if he gets them tonight in the draft. Moving over to the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels. Rebels last season, again, falling in the finals, North Division finals to the Warriors in 3 games. Rebels took them all the way to 3 games. And, I mean, I'm not going to say I expected it, but I expected it in a way. I mean, these were 2 dominant clubs. I mean, you got the Crude trading the rights to Fawchuk for the season halfway through the year, and that just bolstered what the Rebels already had, gave them that late push, and I mean, you win one more game in the season, and you've taken the Warriors, or you have like home floor advantage going into that North Division final.
Yeah, it's definitely tough for the Rebels because you look at it, they had such a fantastic season, but they just weren't better than the Warriors when they needed to be. It's got to be tough sitting at home there watching a team that you took to a 3rd game go all the way, win to Larry Bishop, win or end up going to the Founders, win the Founders. I expect that to be a big motivator for the guys that are coming back for the Rebels this season. Obviously for them, it'll be about going into the draft, getting those couple of missing pieces. I mean, they're not far off the Warriors. As dominant as the Warriors were last season, the Rebels, like you said, were 1 game away from winning the North and being in those tournaments. So just 1 or 2 players, you find the key player, fill a hole, find a gem in the draft that really helps you out. You're looking at competing again for the North Division championship.
Absolutely. And like looking at the Rebels, I mean, they've got a great future ahead of them. In net, especially, you got Bowen Carpenter last season played at an 81.2% save percentage. That was over 16 games. Kid's going into his 18-year-old season. Just a phenomenal season from Bowen, quite frankly. The only two goaltenders better than him last year were the Warriors duo, and I mean, it was kind of hard to beat the Warriors duo at all. And then you look at the Rebels up front. McCallion is still there. You got guys Jackson Baker, Ethan Peterson. These are guys that are going to be around for a little bit. I mean, they do lose Fodchuk back to the Crude this year, but like you said, they're only one or two pieces away from, again, challenging for that top spot. And if the Crude end up finding that piece that they need, and the Rebels find the piece that they need, and the Warriors, if they continue on their hot streak, I think they're losing a couple guys, but the Warriors, Graham Dickens, Sebastian Simonson, Ben Royer, those were the top 3-point getters last year in the North. It's a strong Warriors team. You might have a strong Rebels team again. The Crude, they could make a surprising comeback. And the Outlaws, too. Like, they are a couple key pieces away from hitting that. So we could see a very tight North Division this year.
Yeah, I'm not going to give any predictions. Obviously, I think if you're a betting man, the Warriors would be definitely the odds-on favorite to win this division again next season. But I'm just looking for a more competitive division. And while like the standings don't entirely show how it went last season, like there was a lot of games, like you said, that Outlaws, they lost a few by one goal. You know, a couple of those flip, all of a sudden they're a 500 team. I don't know. I'm hoping for a tighter division next season. But like I said, although the records looked pretty big discrepancy in the records last season, I think on the floor, the games were a lot closer than what the standings showed. So I think this is a highly competitive division again for next season. And I'm excited to watch it pan out.
Absolutely. The Rebels, again, being super close to challenging the Warriors last season to knock them out of first. Unfortunately, they don't get it done and lose to the Warriors in that North Division final. Well, I did happen to sit down with head coach Darren Beret of the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels. Here's that interview for you. I am here with head coach of the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels, Darren. Darren, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. So Darren, last year, Rebels, fantastic year, tying the Warriors in the regular season, 16 wins apiece. Ultimately, you guys do fall in 3 in that final to the Warriors. I don't want to say things kind of went wrong for you guys, but if you had to pick something that you just couldn't push it over and get past the Warriors, what would you say kind of went on there?
I don't think there was. I don't know how to say it. Things went wrong, but I know that we had a lot of injuries in the playoffs, so we didn't have Carter Albrick, Riley Longmire, just to name a few, in that series, which hurt us on the back end a lot. But really, it just came down to. I mean, there was 2 really good teams. We honestly felt like whoever won that series was going to go to Founders. So, I mean, obviously the better team won last year. So we won't make any excuses for that. The Warriors were an awesome team. So,
well, you're not kidding. I mean, the team that won that series ended up winning the Founders. So, looking forward into 2024 draft coming up tonight on Friday. Did you have a solid idea on key targets, positions? Players, don't have to name names or anything, but anything like that, kind of a plan going in?
Yeah, we have a pretty good idea. Myself and Justin, our head scout, we've been kind of going back and forth on names and ideas. There's probably like 30 guys in the draft we actually want, and obviously it's a draft, so you'll get what you don't get everybody, but I think the guys that are going to fall to us, we'll be really happy with. So we're pretty excited, and we have a lot of holes we're looking to fill. And I think with the players, the way we kind of planned it out, we'll probably be able to fill those holes through the draft, which will be awesome.
That would absolutely be fantastic. Take it to the Warriors this year. So outside of winning Larry Bishop and the Founders, I mean, that's a goal of every team in this league. Did you have any kind of goals in mind or any expectations kind of set for the Rebels this year heading into 2024?
I mean, the expectation's always to win, so that's a given. But outside of, having the success for winning games and championships and playoffs and stuff like that, other than that, my real goal is always just continue building our positive, strong locker room. The guys are always really close, but it's nice to continue that. Having a positive atmosphere always makes coming to the rink every day really nice. And then really just every day, we're all the players, coaches, everyone always looking at ways to get themselves better. It's always one of my biggest goals, is just making yourselves better every day and what you can do to become better. Includes myself, and the players especially. Yeah, that's probably what would be my goal outside of winning would be.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Darren, to sit down with me. Darren Beret, head coach of the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels.
Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Darren, for sitting down with me. Another great interview. All these coaches are so great here in this North Division. I absolutely love it. Looking forward into this season, well, we're going to do a little bit that I like to call too early predictions here on Junior Beast. Too early predictions for this year. We're going in. I have a feeling that we're going to see all these teams just super tightly packed. Like, we're not going to have that big spread like last year. We're going to have a very tight division. You might have, I'm going to guess, like 12 points separating first from fourth. And you're going to probably only have a team that gets into that North Division final, wins the North Division with 13-14 wins.
I agree. I think you won't have two teams finish with 16 again. If we're doing too early predictions, like I said, I do think I have the Warriors winning this division still. I expect the Outlaws and the Crude to be a little bit more competitive, thus taking a few more games off those top two teams. So yeah, I would go with you. I think 14 wins the division this season for sure. I'll go with that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning into the Junior Beast podcast. Once again, my name is Keenan alongside co-host Arik. Thank you so much to Cody for, bringing you this show for such a long time and now entrusting us with it. You can catch all the action all season long right here on Crow Lax TV. Again, that YouTube handle, youtube.com/@CrowLaxTX. You can find all episodes of the Junior Beast podcast moving forward right here, along with the draft tonight. That's North Division Draft, 7 p.m. right here on Crow Lax TV. I'll have that for you covered. Thank you so much for tuning into the Junior Beast. We'll catch you next time.